Say, "Oh, my back, love is like a snake, for it bites, it strikes the one.
All right, good morning, everyone. Just doing a sound check and making sure you all can see me.
We can hear you and see you.
Awesome. All right, I've got recording already started. Good. Perfect. Can you all see my screen now?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to give it a couple more minutes here to let everyone have a chance to jump on. Is anyone having any count difficulties and need any assistance with that while we're waiting for some folks to jump on? If you are, feel free to come off mute and let us know, or put that in the chat, and one of us will be able to help you with your account. All right, I think we're still waiting for a few folks, so we'll just give it a little longer here. I want to make sure that everyone has a chance to jump on. All right. I think we're only waiting on a couple of folks, but I think we can get started and they'll jump in when they get here. Okay. So just a few, I know Woody's going to give an introduction here, but just a few reminders as we do a virtual training instead of in the room. Just try to keep yourself on mute unless you are asking a question, so we can avoid any background noise. This is being recorded to be shared with others as for training purposes, and for you all to review following the training. So we just want to make sure the audio is nice and clear and there's not much background noise, but feel free to interrupt us and jump in with any questions. Raise your hand if you want to use that function of Teams, or you can ask questions in the chat and we'll try to answer those as quickly as we can. Yeah, go ahead, Woody. I guess we'll go ahead and get started.
He's here. He should be coming on pretty soon.
Yep. No problem.
Oh, okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. All right. Awesome. All right. Welcome, everyone. My name is Woody Baker Cohn. I'm with the County Office of Emergency Services and here with a bunch of my colleagues who we'll introduce in a moment. Just want to thank you all for coming to the training. This is a product of a big project we've been doing since late last year, working with Sam, who you see on your screen, from Everbridge to redo a bunch of things. So we've now got a new policy manual, manual on how to use the system, and most importantly, new templates that will you'll see today, there's also a bunch of documents we'll get you. And really, this is kind of the coming out party for our relaunched alert and warning system. The alerts use best practices and really are a huge step up in a number of ways. We want to thank certainly Sam and all my colleagues in Alameda for all their work on this, and especially folks from the cities and the agencies who've been part of this, working with us through the stakeholder meeting and various rounds of working on the manuals. So without further ado, let me introduce Samira.
Good morning, everyone. Just wanted to thank everyone for joining us today. Appreciate you taking the time. We've had really good feedback from the 2 days of in-person training that we had last week. So hopefully this will be great help to all of you using the system. Yeah, so I just wanted to say thank you.
All right, thank you,
And
Samira
Brent
Woody.
Blazer, Brent Blazer, who's the emergency manager for the county.
Good morning, everybody. Just want to reiterate what Woody said. He's doing a wonderful job helping us bringing some standards up within our agency. This is a bigger vision that we've had for a bit. And Sam, thank you for your time. What I just want to kind of reiterate is no matter how much work we put into this application and data maintenance and integrations and templates, it really fundamentally comes down to the users. And so I really want to encourage you all to pay attention to how do you actually use the system, which templates to use when based on scenarios, how to actually get quality messaging out. And then look at it back to your agency and say, are we set up? Do we have people on call? Do we have the people continuously doing training? And so this tool will be used in some of the other products that we're helping build to help keep you guys continuously engaged, little at a time, just making marginal improvements as we go over time. So thank you for being here today.
Great, and there have been a few other people at OES involved, but I won't take the time to introduce everybody right now. So I think that's over to you, Sam.
Thank you so much, everyone. Yes, I've been working with a team over at the county here for almost 6 months now, and it's been great helping with setting all this stuff up and getting some training. So I really enjoy getting the opportunity to meet with you all and provide some, training where you get to do some scenarios. We'll do that towards the end of this training, and you can, test the stuff that we've been working on for months and yeah, working with the people who actually send these alerts out and, save the lives. So we really, really appreciate you all being here and taking the time to yeah, work with us on the system and prepare yourselves to, for fire season and other natural or local disasters you may experience. So I will go ahead and get started. Please interrupt me with any questions. We'll kind of keep it informal in that way. Feel free to jump on camera if you want to, or yeah, turn off your mic or raise your hand if you want to use that function. Some of the folks from the county will be monitoring the chat, so they may interrupt me to answer some questions there or answer them there. But yeah, just let us know if you have any questions, or if I'm going too fast or something's unclear. Just absolutely let us know. All right, so we did some introductions. I'm Sam Dillner. I'm a technical account manager with Everbridge. Been working with Alameda for 6 months or so, and I have experience with working with other states and other counties on these sorts of projects. So been doing this for a while now, and then on the right side is the team that was from Alameda County has been working on this project. And who's not Joanna Walters, are the Everbridge account manager, and she's not here today, but she serves that role for the county. All right, so the agenda for today. So we've done our welcome and a quick overview. We're going to be talking about the functional annex that we've been working to create. It has multiple layers to it, including direction, control, and coordination. Talk about the different communication systems you all have access to within the Everbridge platform. Talking about how an event process flows. So that's from when the wildfire starts, for example, all the way to when you send your public alerts and your updates to the public. We have a new tool for you all called the Alerting Matrix. We'll talk about that. It helps you decide who's responsible for sending what alerts and what tools you should use when you send that message. Of course, we'll talk about what happens if a false or erroneous alert gets sent, what procedures you need to follow to work through that. And then the second half of the training is all scenario based. So try not to be too slide heavy and talking at you. I want you all to have the experience to mess with the system and practice sending some alerts. And then in the very end, we'll do some wireless emergency alert training and another exercise. All right, so just a little project overview. So in the past 6 months, Alameda County has partnered with Everbridge to complete a public alerting program update. This has included basically 4 steps. The first step being rewriting the county policy, which we aren't going to go into too much depth today. It's a very long document that outlines all the different pieces of the alerting in the county and how it all needs to work. We're talking more about the functional side of it, how you actually send alerts and what situations you should send alerts for. We also created a functional annex. We'll talk about that a lot more. It's a much shorter document, much more useful in the moment. It's kind of a handbook for you all to work through, knowing when to send alerts and who's responsible for what. We've also spent a long time creating lots of templates that follow Cal OES, FEMA, and our Everbridge best practices. And we've developed trainings and user guides. So hopefully you all have access to the user guides. Those are, I have a QR code I can show you in a few moments. So you'll be able to access all that. And then you're participating in one of the trainings right now. All right, so the training overview, it's kind of a journey, starting with using the new documents, understanding what your role as an alert sender is. That's when you're responsible for sending messages, what situations do you need to be coordinating with your incident commander, or which communication paths you need to use. We're also going to be working in the new Everbridge 360 platform. It's a new user interface. And so you'll be working through that, learning with that new user interface. And then in the end, we're going to send some practice alerts. All right, any questions so far? Awesome. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about the Alert and Warning Functional Annex. So the Functional Annex serves as your operational playbook. It helps you with your in-the-moment decision-making. It provides guidance on which communication systems you should use. So the communications you have, and I'll go into further depth on them further in this presentation, but you have access to Everbridge opt-ins, you have access to Nixle, you have access to Wireless Emergency Alert, you have access to Resident Connection, which is an Everbridge product where we provide phone numbers and addresses of folks within your county for businesses and residents. Outline some messaging standards, so making sure that we're following the best practices put forward by Cal OES and Everbridge and FEMA. And it defines the roles within the system. So direction control and coordination of AC Alert, basically a 5-tiered process or 5-tiered system here, starting with authority. So you all as cities or city officials have the authority to send alerts and notify your communities of emergencies. The county has the authority to send alerts for in unincorporated areas. It is also responsible for multi-jurisdictional alerting and is responsible for wireless emergency alerts for the whole county. Your alert sender responsibilities, you're responsible for taking trainings like this, knowing when you should send alerts, knowing how to send an alert, making sure you have access to the system, making sure your passwords work, making sure that you're up to date on all the current policies and procedures. You're also responsible for coordinating with incident command. So up here, the incident command integration. You as the officials who can send these messages are in your communities. You're the experts in this information. So if your incident commander asks you to send a message, you need to make sure that you're communicating back with them that, you know, either the request is follows the procedures or it doesn't. And if it doesn't, you need to, you know, stand up for that and you know, provide that information back to the incident commander. And multi-jurisdictional coordination. So we put this specifically in here because we wanted to make sure that you're all on the same page about how multi-jurisdictional alerting works within the county. And one important thing we want to note is that if you have a situation in your city that crosses into unincorporated area or into another city, and it's such a emergent situation that you don't have time to coordinate with that city, we want you to send that message. Send that message out, get the public notified, and we'll work on the coordination afterward. And yeah, it's an important note. I'll mention it a couple of times, but that's kind of maybe kind of different from how you thought about it before. But it's really important that we make sure that the public is notified of every, you know, emergent situation that they could experience. You all have access within the system to send to all the contacts within the county for that reason. So if you need to bleed over into the next city, for example, and you don't have time to coordinate, or if you are coordinating and you just coordinate that one city's going to send the message, then you can do that without having any permission issues. And then wireless emergency alert and IPOS coordination. The county is responsible for keeping up with all the certifications and the certificates to make sure that the wireless emergency alerts works within the Everbridge platform. And some cities may have the ability to use that system and send wireless emergency alerts. And we'll talk about that later in this presentation on how to get that access if you don't have that. Any questions on this slide? Right. So now we'll talk about the different communication systems that are available to you within the Everbridge platform. So we have wireless emergency alerts. So some cities, if they hold an MOA with the county and have the proper training, they can utilize that portion of the system. If you don't have that in place, then you rely on the county to do that for you. But it is available within the Everbridge platform. You also have access to Everbridge opt-ins, and we'll go into depth on what these are in the next slides. But you also have access to Everbridge Nixle, so that's the keyword and zip code opt-ins, and that resident connection. So those commercially available that we provide as Everbridge to your system, the phone numbers and addresses of residents and businesses within your county. So let's talk about the Everbridge opt-ins and Nixle subscribers. I've combined them here on one slide because they're treated similarly in terms of when you can use them to alert the public. So these folks have all decided that they wanted messages from you all and gone out and signed up for them. So these people have, you know, they're voluntarily signing up for this. So there's a lower threshold of severity required to send a message to these folks. The data is accessed through Everbridge, and by default, in the templates we've created, these two systems are always going to be notified of every single alert. So we'll talk about the thresholds later, but for example, if you had like a road closure that you needed to send a message out about, you could use Everbridge opt-ins and Nixle subscribers for that, since they've opted in for this information and it's a little less severe of a situation, but you know, it's public safety information. And for those unfamiliar with Nixle, folks can go, and you can see in the phone screenshot on the right there, folks can type their zip code in and text it to 888-777, and it will sign them up for that zip code based alerts. It also supports keyword opt-ins. but we don't really use that in this county much. But they could text a keyword if it's enabled in the system, and then they would sign them up for that event, and then we can send to that from the Everbridge system. So jumping up a tier in severity, then that's when you would use these, are the resident connection. So these are commercially sourced resident and business contact information. We provide it, we update it automatically for you all. It's just loaded in your system, and all you have to do is use it when the situation is right. We maintain all that for you. But the data is not provided voluntarily by residents. It is, we collect it, basically it's like white pages information, but we collect it and then load it into your system for you. Like all the other information and the other data, you can access it through Everbridge, but it does require a higher threshold of severity than opt-ins. Because of that, is not voluntary. So you would need a situation like an evacuation warning, or an active shooter, or some kind of threat that you need to notify the public for, and you don't care whether they've opted in for it or not, but they need to be notified. Any questions on resident connection? Okay. All right, the next communication system I want to talk about is wireless emergency alert. So these commonly referred to as WEA. This is a system that allows us or other government agencies to send messages directly to all capable cell phones within a chosen area. We draw a polygon on the map, and we can send that message to those folks within there. There's some more character limits. We have two options. We have 360 characters or 90 characters, depending on how modern the cell phones are. So we have messages crafted for both, and it supports sending in Spanish. So we have in 90 and 360 characters as well. So we have that crafted. It detects what the phone language is. So if the phone language is set in Spanish, then it would deliver the Spanish version of the message to those folks. The system is managed by FEMA, and it's used only for imminent life threats requiring immediate action. So this is your evacuation orders, your active shooters, your any kind of evacuation. I said that already. Let's go another example. But any of the severe threats that you have in your community, some hazmat releases that are really dangerous chemicals in the air, for example, this would be the tool that you could utilize for this. It is accessed through Everbridge. There's a slightly different process on how to send those because of it being a FEMA managed system that is linked through Everbridge. So there's a separate user guide for sending IPOS messages, and those should be provided to you as well. And for cities that have access, you'll be able to send these from the templates that we've created. But if you don't have access to your city, you rely on the county to do this, and you can contact the county and they'll send one on your behalf. All right, any questions on the communication systems before I go on to the next section? Right. And feel free to if a question comes up, just let me know. The event process flow. So this is a graphic that is in the annex. In the annex, you can look at it yourself if you'd like. But I just wanted to highlight that it kind of describes how an event would flow from like start to finish. So from the 911 call to the public receiving an alert. So we'll work through it with an example. So basically, let's say we have a brush fire that starts out in one of your cities, and locals call 911, local dispatch, or local dispatch would send out the fire trucks and the firefighters to go work on that incident. The incident commander comes back and says, this is starting to threaten some homes. We want to send out an evacuation warning. they let their local dispatch know, and whatever process you have within your city. So for this one, it's talking about local dispatch, but it might be a different pathway for you specifically. But the local dispatcher contacts one of you all, and you start beginning the process of sending that alert or requesting assistance. So there's three basic questions you need to ask when you're being asked to send an alert. One is the incident impacting multiple jurisdictions? Are you able to send that message? Are you able to complete the notification request? Is IPAWS or WIA required for this situation? If you answer yes to any of those questions, then you should work through contacting Alameda County OES to help you send that message. So if you answer yes to multiple jurisdictions, then by default it should be the county that's sending that message. But I gave you that caveat a little while ago that if there is not enough time for coordination, you need to send that message right away, do so, and then we'll coordinate after for follow-up messages. If you're unable to send the message, for example, if you've forgotten how to send the message, or you can't find the user guide, or you can't log into your account and you need assistance, contact the county and they will be able to help you. And if IPAWS is required and you're not able to send that message because your city doesn't have access to IPAWS, then you would contact the county and they'll go ahead and send that message. If you answer no to all those questions, then you can go ahead and send the message through AC Alert. Any questions on that? Just meant to give you a kind of a graphic on how the event could flow. All right, this next section, I want to talk about the new tool that we've created for you all called the Alerting Matrix. This is meant to be a quick tool that you can use when you're dealing with a situation where you've been asked to send an alert, but you're unsure which communication systems you can use. Who's responsible for sending that message? Is WIA an option for this message? So we'll work through two examples on this slide, and we'll talk about how you would use this to work through those examples. So let's talk about something simple, like not as high severity. So like a boil water advisory. So let's say you need to send one for your community and you're unsure which systems are available. So you come to this chart here, and on the left side, you'll see the alert category. So a boil water notice is a public health or environmental concern. So we go start on that and on that line there. And then we would talk about the threat level. So a boil water notice is generally going to be an advisory kind of a message. And it's meant to the purpose here. So providing health protection and risk reduction. And here we can see which options you have available to you based on the situation. You can use Everbridge opt-ins, Nixle, and then you could use social media as well. Would WIA be eligible? It'd be rare, unlikely, and if you need to, you could contact Alameda County OES and they could help you understand whether you can or not. Who's responsible? So the county was responsible if it's multi-jurisdictional or if it's unincorporated land. And if it's a single jurisdiction and the city's able to send the message, they're responsible for that message. And then on the right side, here's some example situations. Let's talk about a more life-threatening situation. So we'll go ahead with an evacuation order example. So that is an imminent threat to life because there's a wildfire and there's threatening homes and people need to evacuate. So that's immediate life threat. Threat level is immediate life threatening. Primary purpose is immediate protective action. Primary channels, here these are the tools that are available to you based on this scenario, are wireless emergency alert. We've got Everbridge opt-ins, resident connection, Nixle, and social media. So all of the above. And for those higher severity situations, we want to use every tool available to us to give us the best chance of getting every person in that area. Give us a higher chance of reaching everyone. Is it IPAWS eligible? Yes. who's responsible for sending it. So county OES if it's unincorporated or multi-jurisdictional, or if a city is not authorized to send wireless emergency alerts. Authorized cities, if they're able to send wireless emergency alerts and they want to use all those systems, then and it's a single jurisdiction, they can go ahead and send that. We do want to note there that if you are unable to send wireless emergency alerts, but you need to get that message out right away, and you feel that alerting or coordinating with the county or other jurisdiction is going to take away from your time, your ability to send that message out, then you should send that message, and we can send follow-up wireless emergency alerts later after you have time to coordinate with them. So should not delay using the tools that are available to you for the purpose of coordination, or waiting for someone who has WIA access to send that message. We can always just send another one after to make sure we get everybody. And you can see on the example situations, we can see that evacuation orders there. All right. Any questions on the matrix? All right, now let's talk about erroneous and false alert procedures. So I know it's a very word-heavy slide, but I wanted to make sure you had it all in front of you since it is a requirement of you as alert senders. So if an erroneous or false alert is sent either by you or by someone in your organization, or a bad actor that somehow got access to somebody's account in your organization, these are the steps that you need to follow. So one is, and sometimes we often think like someone maliciously sending an alert. It could just be that you were meant to go send a test message and you filled it out as like an evacuation order example, but then you accidentally sent it to the live environment when you meant to not do that. You need to immediately follow the message up with a message to the public through the exact same channels, making sure we hit the same exact recipients, letting them know that information was false and providing them, corrected information. You need to inform agency leadership and PIO staff right away. You need to notify Alameda County OES for awareness and support, as they'll help you with the dealing with that situation. The contact information there is on the right, so you'll call and email the county at those pieces of contact information there, and you'll provide the following information: your name, the systems that were used. So if you sent it via Everbridge opt-ins, Nixle, iPOS, whatever you sent it through, whatever kind of contacts were sent to that message, the contents of the message that was sent, and all the follow-up messages you sent after that. If a false or erroneous wireless emergency alert is sent, there are other requirements because it's a FEMA system. You need to contact the FCC within 24 hours, and that's the contact information there. So if that does happen, you'll work directly with the county and they'll help you do this portion of it. Any questions on this slide? Okay. This information is all in the annex, so if you need to reference it, that's where you would find it. All right. So now we'll transition to the scenario-based exercises. And I do it in basically 3 different steps. So first is I provide you a demonstration. Then we do one together where you follow along as I work through the scenario, and then we do individual practice. So then you'll do this on your own, and I will be here, and other folks from the county will be here to answer questions and assist you. All right. So this is the first scenario. So the scenario is at 2:50 p.m. on April 7th, a structure fire is broken out in a multi-story commercial building near 9th Street and Hyatt Street in the city of Alameda. Fire crews on scene working to contain the fire, and heavy smoke is visible in the area. Several nearby streets have been closed to allow emergency access, and traffic is being diverted. Residents and businesses nearby may experience reduced visibility due to smoke and debris in the roadway. People in the immediate area are advised to stay indoors if safe to do so, while all others should avoid the area and use alternate routes. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and switch over to the Everbridge system here. So, and you're welcome to follow along for this portion too, but I want you to more focus on what I'm doing so you can go through the example. But I want to talk about I want to talk about a few things first. The first thing being, when we're working in this training environment, you've all been given access to Training-AC Alert. It's an organization designed specifically for this training and for you all to practice with. There are two roles you've been given within that system. One is Training Incident Operator, and the other is Training WIA Incident Operator. So for this training and for the scenarios that you're going to be doing, I need to make sure that you're in this organization and you're in the Training Incident Operator role, or when we're in the WIA section of the training, you're in that Training WIA Incident Operator. I want to make sure that you all do that because we do not want to be in the live environment and accidentally send anything to the public. The training environment's specifically designed to not send to the messages. It lets you do the process, fill out the forms, send that message, but it doesn't actually go anywhere. So as a reminder, up at the top here is where you select your role and your organization. So click on that, click on Training-AC Alert and Training Incident Operator. I went through and gave everyone access to this, but if I accidentally miss somebody and you don't see this, please let us know and we'll give you that role. Also, so we'll be doing this training in the Everbridge 360 user interface. So up at the right-hand corner, you'll see this Everbridge 360 toggle. By default, when you log in, I'm just going to put it back to the legacy version here, you would have seen this. And you can see up in the right-hand corner, it says New Everbridge 360. If you click that toggle switch right there, it'll reload the page and you'll be working in the new user interface. Does anyone have any questions about which role they need to be in to do this training? I really want to make sure we do not send anything to the public, but I want you all to have the ability to practice. So please ask if you're unclear with what role you're in for this training. All right, so we have our structure fire scenario. So when you log in, you'll use your multi-factor authentication. You'll get an email with a code. You plug that in. You come to a page that gives you a pop-up that tells you you're logging into the training environment or the public environment. But for this, you need to be in the training environment. You click proceed, and then it brings you to this page. So to launch an incident, that's the function we use to send messages to the public, our incidents. We have two options. One, in the upper right-hand corner here, you'll see a blue launch incident button, or under the communications tab, you'll see incidents, and you can click on launch incident. You'll also see all your open history. So these are messages from the past or your scheduled, any scheduled incidents. So we'll go ahead and click launch incident for this scenario. All right, and then you'll see, since we're in the training environment, I'm just going to keep saying it because I really don't want anything to happen with the public accounts. You'll see at the top here, it says simulation. If you don't see simulation, then you're in the wrong environment. So make sure you see simulation, and you'll see simulation active here, and a blue border around your screen. So for this scenario, we're talking about a structure fire. We can go into these are folders that house the templates that we've created, and basically categories for you to help guide you to the right template. You can also search for a template here in a search bar. So you could search a keyword like fire if you wanted to, and it will show you the folders available under that category. So for this, we'll open up the fire and explosion folder, and we'll open up the structure fire template. So these templates, they're all slightly different based on the scenario that they serve. However, they function all in the same way. So all of them will ask you what agency you are. So here you would select your agency. For this scenario, I'm looking at my other screen, that's why I'm looking over here, where I have the scenario up in front of me. it is a structure fire in the city of Alameda. So we'll go ahead and select city of Alameda. And for the location, so most of the templates have a location. I think all of them do. And you'll plug that in. It's a text box, so you have to it's a free write field. You fill out the location. Date and time is always included. Sometimes for situations, we'll just use the now button. So for this one, we would, because that's when we're sending it. However, there may be some situations where the message is sent at a specific time, or you want to denote it like the evacuation order is at this time, not what the actual current time is. And at the bottom here, it's always going to be defaulted to the county's website, but you have the ability. So if you have a city website that you want included in the footer of the message that folks can go to for further information, you could switch that out with your own website. It's okay to use the county one if you don't have one. It just directs people to a place where they can find the message translated. So if you are putting in a city website, you need to make sure that you're providing the county is providing it in Spanish as well, in translation option on the website. But if you're doing it through your own city website, you need to make sure that the city website has like Google Translate capabilities, which is pretty standard for most websites. So you probably do, but just make sure that before you plug in a city website here. Spanish, based on an evaluation that was done of the county, Spanish and English are the two languages that are required for alerting. So just so you all are aware of that, you do need to make sure that the message is accessible in Spanish as well. So we'll plug in the location. I'm just going to copy and paste it here. All right, so you just filled out that. This is the operator panel, we call it. So you filled out that, and once it's all filled out accurately, you can click the next button. Oh, before I do that, sometimes you'll see a little eye symbol next to one of these questions. It's just an information bubble. So if you hover over it, it gives you more information. You click next. And here we can see the message. It's been pre-written. So those things that you filled out, the boxes you filled out on the previous page, they inserted themselves into the message, the pre-written message. You all have the ability to edit these messages, and we want you to do so if needed. The idea is that these templates give you a great starting point, and you may not need to edit them at all, but we want you to proofread them and add any other information you feel is necessary. We just didn't want you to have to start with a blank page when you're going to send these messages out. The more high level, like active shooter ones, you won't have time to edit them, but they've been built with all the best practices in mind, so they have all of those, all the information that is needed. At the top here, we have two checkboxes that you can use. So since these are all government messages, important public messages, they're all set to high priority. But if the situation is an imminent threat to life, you can check that box. And then if you hover over these little eye symbols, they'll tell you what it does. But if you use the imminent threat to life button, it will override do not disturb settings on the app. High priority just puts your messages in the Everbridge queue ahead of, like, say, if we have lots of customers, some are corporate customers and their messages aren't as important as yours. Your messages would go through the queue first because of the nature of your situation. So you would double check that the title is accurate. Then the next box down here is the text message. So SMS, that's what the folks via text message, this is what they'll receive. And the text-to-speech conversion, that's what folks receive via phone call. It's an automated voice. You'll see there's some Spanish here at the bottom that directs folks on how to get translation of that message. So always proofread that. For text messages, we require that there is a date and time in the message. And the reason for that is this is a big after action item after the LA fires. When a lot of the cell phone towers went down, when they came back online, folks were receiving alerts that didn't have any time or date stamp on them. They're receiving them days or weeks after it happened, and it was very confusing to the public because they were getting sent an evacuation order that is 4 or 5 days old, and it doesn't have a date and time stamp on it. They're confused. They think they need to evacuate, but it's an old message. So we've made sure that the date and time is in all of those text messages. The next box here is what folks receive via email. And like Microsoft Word, it's a rich text editor, so you can make things bold. You can add graphics and things like that. All these messages are set to the polling feature. This allows us to access the longer text messages, so a longer character limit. So it used to be that you were limited to 160 characters, but now using the polling function, we can get that limit a bit higher. So go ahead and leave that the way that it is. If you need to attach like a press release or a PDF document with more information, you can attach files here. And if you do, it just opens up your file manager and you can attach files there. You can only attach 5, and they have to be 20 megabytes or less. As you work through this, if you have questions about what things are, if you hover over the little eye symbols, it will help you understand what they're for. But all this is set up as a default for you, so it should have most everything you need. The next section here is where we define our publishing options. So with all messages, all the templates here, we have the default to sending to our Nixle subscribers. Those are the folks that texted their zip code to 888-777. And we do have a much shorter character limit for the SMS message in Nixle. So that's why there's a custom message here. We are limited to 138 characters or 117 characters if you want there to be a link at the end of that message so they can go get more information. So I've set them all up to be a default of being less than 117 characters. However, if you typed in a location that was really long, it's possible for you to push it beyond the character limits and make it so that the URL link doesn't appear. So if I add a bunch of characters, you'll see I got a warning triangle here, and it says message will not include the short URL. When the folks click on the URL, it will show them the information that you have in this in the email box here. So it's a way for us to access a lot more characters by making sure that that link is in there. So this is one area where you may have to do some editing or shortening of the message. Things you can do are the date and time is always default to have like zeros and 2026 versus 26. So you could shorten it, you could lose a couple characters that way. You could, try to find some abbreviations and shorten the message in here. At the top here, you have 3 options for sending the message. Community option, it only sends via email. So we don't use that function for you guys. It's always advisory or alert. Advisory sends for both SMS and email for those Nixle subscribers. And then alert also sends to Google Alerts. So it'll post on Google Maps and it will send messages to Google Home devices so folks can access that information that way. But I just want to make sure you all are aware that you can only use the alert function when it's an imminent threat to life situation, and because it can access those Google Home devices, and we wouldn't want to send a traffic alert and have that activate someone's Google Home device and let them know there's a situation in their area. So use that for imminent threat to life, but for everything else, use advisory. And they're all set to. All the templates are defaulted to being what is right for that scenario. However, we understand that you know, the situation may be different in real life, so you may need to change it. So selecting the correct zip codes, I'm going to actually switch back over to my presentation because we're unable to build this part in the training environment. So I have a slide for it. All right. So when you're selecting the correct Nixle subscribers, so these are selecting the right zip codes, what we do is we go ahead and select community subscriber, excuse me. We select community subscribers, we select use zip codes for my polygons, and we select use zip codes for my polygons, and then you can go ahead to the next step. It's important to note that if you leave the message as my entire jurisdiction, then the message would send to all the zip codes in the entire county. So we really want to make sure that you don't do that and you use zip codes for my polygon. So the next portion of this, we're going to be drawing a polygon on a map to select the right contacts. And that's where this is going to get the information on which zip codes are affected. It's going to look at the map and see which zip codes that polygon's in. And then we'll send to those the correct subscribers there. But, you know, follow the directions in the user guides and do not select my entire jurisdiction. The county may use that function, but U.S. cities would never need to do that. Any questions on that? Okay. We'll go ahead back to the system here. So for this, the training event, it's just set to a training subscriber there. So selecting your contacts. So this is a portion where you do need to know exactly where the situation is occurring, and you need to know how big of a polygon you need. So this takes some coordination with the incident commander, whoever is responsible, whoever is requesting this alert, to make sure that you're using the right polygons. So to do this, you'll notice that one group is selected, and this is the same as in the live environment. There's always going to be an always notify group. These are county officials who need to have situational awareness of what's going on within the county, so they're receiving all the alerts that you're sending. And that's so they can, you know, begin to provide coordination and, you know, be ready for if you ask for help. You know, they use that information to help prepare themselves to help you. So to select on the map, we click the map button, and that will load the map. And you can see there's a bunch of different colored dots throughout your county. So for this scenario, this is happening in the city of Alameda. So we'll zoom into the city of Alameda. You can see there's three colors, three layers of contacts here. So for this is a structure fire. And if we go to if we looked at the matrix, we could see that this is approved for our Everbridge opt-ins and our Nixle opt-ins, but generally not something we would send to resident connection. So we go ahead and select contact layers, and you can see there's training opt-in data. Those are the residents that have opted into a member portal. They went in, they signed up, they plugged in their information, and they said, I want alerts. So those are our Everbridge opt-ins. We also in black have the resident connection businesses, and in blue we have the resident connection residents addresses and phone numbers. So for this situation, we would turn off the resident connection, and we'll only use our opt-ins. So we've selected the correct contact layers, and now we go ahead and select our shapes. So for this scenario, this isn't something you would have a pre-made polygon for, so we're going to draw one. There are polygons in the system here under the shapefile library. So when we're sending to messages for like our Zone Haven shapes, those are loaded in here, and you can use those. And if you select them, it'll load that polygon on the map. We have zip code layers. We've got city boundaries, county boundaries available for you to use. But for this situation, we would need to freehand a message or freehand a polygon. So there's a couple different options. Polygon's the most useful, so we'll go ahead with that one. And you can practice with these. You can draw a circle or you can freehand. I find polygon to be the most useful, especially when dealing with cross streets. Let me zoom out just a little bit. So we'll just say that this happened. I think it's in this area. So we'll go ahead and start our polygon. You click and then you drag your mouse. And then we'll say this is the area that we want to select. And to make it stop following your mouse, if you double click, it will select that area. So you can see we've selected 141 contacts. And so those are all Everbridge opt-ins within that area. And one thing to note is that when you draw these lines, these are very specific maps. So for example, this person here, since we drew this line, they're not going to receive it because their dot is not within the polygon. So I didn't do it as great for this, but when you're doing this, we suggest following streets. That way you aren't cutting through houses like I did, but in real life, you'd spend more time making the polygon. The next step before you move on to selecting the contacts, you need to make sure that you save the polygon. And the reason why we save the polygons is because if you need to send an updated message, we want you to have the ability to use that same polygon over again. So to do that, you can go ahead and select the contacts there, and it says shape 1. If you select it, you can click Save to Shapefile Library. Allows you to give it a name. I'm going to put Structured Fire 414. And the correct folder to put it in is Ongoing Incidents. So make sure you put a date and the kind of an incident name. If you're working with a wildfire, use the wildfire's name. And then click Save. And you can see it says Save Successfully. And then we can go ahead and select the Select button. So under the settings section, there's nothing that you need to change there, so you can leave that be. And then the next portion of this, we click the review button, and this allows us to see what the message looks like via on the left here. We can see this is what folks are going to receive via their email addresses. Here's what they receive via text message. We could listen to the voice call, the automated voice. This is what they receive via Nixle, the zip codes. And on the right side, we can see how many recipients. It's important to note that the Nixle numbers do not appear in the contact section. Nixle is completely anonymous. You will get to see a number after you send the message who was signed up, but not before. And there's no way to manage those contacts. It's all managed by the individuals themselves, so no need to worry about that. And then once you're happy with the way the message looks, you click the send button. So if you were following along with me and you are at this page, before you click the send button, I want you to make sure that you're in simulation mode. I want you to make sure that you're in the training environment, training AC alert, training incident operator. I want to make sure that you check and make sure at the bottom it says simulation active and you see this blue box around your screen. If all that is true, then you can go ahead and click the send button. All right, so the message has been sent. And any questions on that? Right. So the next scenario, let me pull up the slides. All right. So this is a follow along portion now. I want you all follow along with me as we work through this next scenario. So I'll go a little bit slower so you all can work with me on it, but I'll read the scenario out. So at 3:10 a.m. on April 9th, a fast-moving wildfire has crossed a ridge and is spreading towards residential neighborhoods in Castro Valley near Culp Canyon. Fire crews report that winds are pushing the fire towards homes and conditions are rapidly changing. The incident commander, in coordination with the Alameda County Sheriff's Office, has issued an evacuation warning for the affected area. This means that there is a potential and increasing threat to life and property, and conditions may worsen with little notice. Residents should begin preparing to evacuate by gathering essential items, medications, important documents, pets, and a go bag. Those who may need additional time to evacuate, including individuals with access or functional needs, should consider leaving now. The following evacuation zones are affected: 1423 and 45. All right. So I'm actually going to split my screen so you can see both me working through this and that scenario, because I know you all need it. Hopefully that's not too small for you to read, but you can still see the both the scenario and my screen here. So we'll go ahead and select incidents and launch incident to start the process. So we'll go ahead and so we have an evacuation warning. So we can go ahead to the evacuation protective actions folder, find the evacuation warning template. So here we have our operator form. We'll go ahead and fill this out. So Castro Valley is in the county of Alameda, an unincorporated area, I believe. So we'll go ahead and select that. You can use your own city if you're working through the example if you want to. The location. This is where you'd put the known as field of the Genesis evacuation zones. For this example, I'll just put Coal Canyon. And the hazard is wildfire. And the date and time, we're just going to say now again. And we'll go ahead and leave that at the county's website. So I'll let you all do that. Just remember to make sure that you have this blue border and that you're working in the training environment. Any questions? Okay, so once you have that filled out, go ahead and click the next button. And we'll go ahead and review the message. Does anyone need any more time before I go start talking about the next portion of this? I don't want to leave anybody behind. When I'm in person, I can go and look at everyone's computer, but now I can't, so I just have to hope that you're following along and everything. But so for this example, you know, in real life, you definitely want to proofread the message, spend a lot of time, not a lot of time, but just, you know, reading the message, making sure it's accurate to your situation, and then and going forward, for the sake of time, we'll just we'll assume that it's correct. We're going to double check our Nixle message, make sure we're not over the character limit. Looks like we're good. We would select zip codes for my polygons here. And then we'll go to the map. So this is an evacuation order, or evacuation warning, sorry. So we can use more of the contact layers because of the increased severity of the situation. So in general, evacuation warnings, you could use WEA for it. For this scenario, we're not, because we're not in that part of the training, but you can definitely use Resident Connection for evacuation warnings and opt-in data. So we'll leave it as everybody, all the layers there. And since these are evacuation zones that we're activating, we'll use the shapefile library to select these contacts. So if you click on shape library and you click on Zone Haven, and for this scenario, I only have the three layers loaded in, but there would be all, I think there's like a little over 1,000 of them. So they would all be in there. They're all in folders based on their 3-letter code at the beginning. And you click load to load them on the map. So we'll load all 3. And we've got all the contact layers selected. There's no need to save the polygons this time because they're already saved in the system. So you can click select, and now you've got your contact selected. Then we go ahead down to the bottom and click the review button. So I'm going to take back over the screen so you can see it all better. Here we're going to proofread the message, double check our contacts, make sure everything looks correct and makes sense. If something is incorrect and you need to edit it, click the back button. That will take you back to this page where you can edit the message. If you click the cancel button, it closes it out and you have to start from the beginning again. This is where you would, if you have the ability to have a second set of eyes to look at the message, this is the time that you would definitely want to do that. But you can review which the different delivery methods here. So once you're happy with the message, and if you're following along with me, just double check you've got that blue border around it, that you're in the training environment, that it says simulation mode at the top. Click send. All right. Any questions on that follow along scenario? Would folks like a little more time to continue working through it, or should I move on to the part 2 of that scenario? Contact choices, yes. So since I already sent it, I'll have to go open a new one, but not a problem. So just bear with me as I do that. So we have one question in the chat, review contact choices. Okay. And you're referring to selecting the contact layers, is that what you're referring to in your question here? Okay, so you have it goes back to our communication systems. We have our Everbridge opt-ins and our Nixle. Nixle's done separately, but in the map here we have our Everbridge opt-ins, we have our resident connection residents and our resident connection businesses. The businesses are like business phone numbers for businesses with an address in that area, and the residents are either VoIP phone numbers or cell phones or landlines with an address in that area. So we can use that matrix that I showed you earlier. Let me see if I can pull that back up to decide which delivery options are approved for that type of a message. And so we can see that we can use these options here. Evacuation warning is our example situation, and we can use Everbridge opt-ins, resident connection, Nixle, and social media if you wanted to. So that's how we decide which channels are used. And then you, based on that and the scenario that you have, you choose the correct dynamic groups here, and we have all 3 of them selected for this scenario. Hopefully that answers your question. Let me know if it does not. To select them physically, you'd use that the polygons. You click load on all of them and then the select button. Norma, regarding each organization creating their own shapefile. So shapefiles are loaded, all of the shapefiles are loaded in from, and this is we're still in the process of completing the update, but from Genesis Zone Haven, those shape files, they're loaded in, but we're going to do an update of them. But those are loaded, all of them are loaded into the live environment. So whatever you put in Zone Haven, those shapes are going to be in Everbridge. I think Woody set a deadline a couple weeks ago for completing those updates, but we're in the process of loading those into Everbridge.
That's right. We're running a little behind on uploading the latest Zone Haven zones due to some problems with Genesis's internal systems, but that should be soon. We also have shape files for other things like Tsunami Inundation Zone and various other things like that loaded in there. If you have some specific local needs, get a hold of Samira or myself, and we can help you with that, certainly.
Thank you, Woody. Hannah.
Hey Sam, this is Hannah with City of Berkeley. I just had a quick question about the polling versus standard options.
Yeah.
You had said that we should choose polling because it'll give us more characters. I was kind of toggling on and off between them, and it didn't seem like there was any change to either the fax or the SMS character limit. So maybe I'm missing something, but could you just point out where that is?
Yeah, so when you let's see what it does. So it does unlock the character limit. I think it limits you to whatever the fax is, so 2,000, I think, 2,200 characters. I can get you an exact number, but generally we would want to make sure that a message is much shorter than, for a text message shorter than, we try to stick around like 600 or less. But yeah, when you turn this on, it does unlock that that character limit and sends a longer text message. It doesn't, I guess, show you, but
Yeah, I was gonna say,
but it does
should we just
do that.
should we just ignore that yellow triangle then?
Yes, it will still be truncated. However, it's truncated at that higher limit, 2,000 something.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
It's basically a workaround for
It
a
is, yes.
limitation that Everbridge has that Sam very cleverly led us to.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Well, you know, we do, yeah, you could purchase the longer standard version if you wanted to, but we can use this workaround, so you don't have to. But yeah, the only risk is that and I think it's pretty much not a risk anymore. We haven't seen it in years, but in the past, longer text messages, the reason the character limit was there is that the messages could get broken up and sent with like that parentheses 1 of 2, 2 of 2. That we used to see on our flip phones and stuff. But now with modern cell phones, that doesn't really happen, and the carriers are putting those messages together, and we're not seeing that as an issue anymore. But in theory, if that was to still happen and there was issues with the cell towers, it's possible that someone could receive like one half of the message and not get the other half until much later. We're not seeing that happen anymore. That's why we're going forward with this. We think it's more important to give all the information and save them from having to click for more information, rather than shortening the message way down. But yeah, we're just kind of take advantage of that option.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions? So there is a part 2 of this scenario. So we're going to transition to sending an update, which you will very likely have to do. So that's why we're transitioning to that part. So let me go back to open history here. I'm going to go ahead and select the message I sent. And if you're following along, please select the message you sent. So on the open by, find your name. Click on the title of it. And you'll see here the message that you sent. So I'll go back to the scenario. Scenario part 2. All right, so a little while later, at 5:40 5 a.m. on April 9th, the fire has been contained by the fire crews and there is no longer an evacuation needed. We must send an update to the previous message to ensure that the public is aware of the change. The following evacuation zones are affected, so the same zones. All right, so we'll go back in here. So we do have the option to send update from this send update button. When you do that, we're actually going to send it through since this is going to be an all clear message. We'll send it through the all clear template that I've created. But if you're sending an update to a situation that you've already, like if we were for this scenario, if more zones were needed to be added to that list, you could use the update send update button, and it'll pre-fill whatever you put in the original message, and you can go ahead and modify that message. But for this scenario, we'll go ahead and use the all clear template. So go ahead and click on launch incident. Under administrative and general messaging, we have an all clear and an ad hoc, which I'll talk about just since we're looking at it. Ad hoc messages they're basically for situations that we didn't create a template for. So this is for you to use for something that we didn't think of in our 42 templates that we have, and you need to send a message. You use this one and you type out your own message. It does help you by putting the title option, the message description. It makes sure it has that Spanish little subtext on it, and make sure to include your agency here. So it helps you some, but you still would have to craft the message yourself. So for this, we'll use this updated scenario. We'll use the all clear template. So the location is Skull Canyon still. The hazard is wildfire. And we may need to modify the wording here, but we'll just put that in. Yeah, Daniel, that is an option too, but for simplicity's sake, we're launching a new incident for this. Okay. So you select your time, so we'll go now, and then the email is going to stay the same. So we click next. So now we proofread the message. So here it says Alameda County wildfire evacuation for Skull Canyon is no longer a threat. Area is safe to resume activities. You may need to modify the message slightly to match the situation. So it's a generic all clear message template designed to be used for tons of different scenarios. But we have the ability to edit if needed. But this it reads okay for this example. So we'll go ahead and go down to the contact selection part. We would want to make sure that we select use zip codes for our polygons here from the Nixle section, and make sure our message is short enough. So you can see this one is too long. So we need to lose some characters. So to do that, I'll remove the zeros. So that looks like we were able to shorten the message enough to make it work. So it'll be fine there. Then we go ahead and select map again. So to make sure that we're sending to the exact same contacts we previously sent it to, we need to select the same exact polygons. So we'll go ahead and select the shapefile library, and we'll load all 3 of those evacuation zones back in. And the contact layers. So since we're sending an all clear message, all clear messages should follow the exact same contacts that you sent the original message to. So this message was sent to Resident Connection and our opt-ins and Nixle, so we need to make sure we have all those options selected. So those are selected by default. So we'll click select 140 contacts, and then we can click review. And then we go ahead and review the message, make sure it makes sense, proofread it, and then click the send button. Again, if you're following along, just double check, make sure you're in simulation mode here. Click send. That's how we've sent our all clear message for that wildfire. evacuation warning. Any questions on that? So as Daniel pointed out, yeah, so you do have the option to use the send update button to send updates or changes. If you do that, it'll autofill your message here. You click next. I know I'm in the all clear one, but if you were in the other template, you'd be able to make changes here and you can resend the message. You absolutely can use that option as well. There's a couple different ways to send updates. Sometimes I find that sending a new incident is the simplest, so that's generally the way I teach it, but you can use the send update or close incident with an update option. Just make sure you're selecting the exact same contacts as previous. You're editing the message to make it clear that it's an update or an all clear message, and that yeah, you send to the exact same contacts as before. You may see the contact number jump up a little bit as time goes on, because when emergencies happen, people start signing up for stuff. So you may see the Everbridge opt-ins start ticking up as the scenarios or as the situation's unfolding. And that's, you know, that's quite normal to see. So it may not be the exact number of people as it was previous, but as long as you're selecting the same contact paths. Hopefully that answers your questions. All right, so we'll move on to the next scenario. Do this one, or let me just decide which one I want you guys to do. I think we'll do this one. So we're looking pretty good on time. I need the last 20 minutes or so to do the wireless emergency alert portion of this training. So we'll spend maximum of 20 minutes doing this scenario. I don't think it's going to take us that long, but so yeah, 1-4 or was that 10:40 your guys' time? Is that right? So go ahead and work through this scenario. This scenario has two parts, so it does have an update, a closeout of the message. Yeah, so go ahead and work through that, try to send that message, and let us know if you have any questions. So we'll be here just letting you all work through that, and here to answer any questions. Oops. Yeah, so once you sent your first message, you can yeah, go ahead to scenario part 2 and send your update. Does anyone have any questions or need any assistance with the scenario at all? If you are finished with both of them, I see some folks are. Yeah, go ahead and take a couple minutes break if you need it. Come back in a few minutes and then go on to the wireless emergency alert portion. All right, just checking in on where folks are at. Does anyone need any more time to work through this? Yes, okay, perfect. Thank you for letting me know. Hard being remote. I can't see where we're all at, so but yeah, just let me know if you have questions.
Hey, Sam, this is Darren. I have a question for you.
Absolutely.
So if I freehand the alert area, is it better to just try to freehand the same area or with the polygon, or just continue with the original alert that was sent out, because I'm going to have the same contacts in that?
So that's a great question. So if you want to have that same polygon you had before, you would have had to have saved it from the first message. That's
Okay.
So if you didn't save the polygon, then you would have to, either use one that you've already created if you saved it, or freehand it in the same manner. There's no exact way to, without saving the polygon, to make sure that you got the exact same contacts. You can send a follow-up to that same list. However, it may not be the exact same, and you wouldn't for the Nixle subscribers. So that's why when you're sending an alert with a specifically hand-drawn polygon, you need to save that polygon from the original message to use that as your polygon for updated messages.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's
yeah.
what I did.
Yep. Yes, I will show you how to save your hand-drawn polygons again. Pull that back up. I'll just go ahead and launch an incident again, just so you can all see that. What was this scenario? We'll go ahead with. There was a couple different templates you all could use for this one. It was designed to kind of make you look through the list of templates. I'll go ahead with the shelter in place template for this one. And I don't remember what the details are, but we'll just put something in there so we can show you the map part. Right, and we go to the map here. Zoom into our desired location. We go ahead and draw our polygon. Trying to follow roadways. We have our polygon. To save it, we just go ahead and click on the contact number, click on shape, click save to shapefile library, give it a name. Making sure to include the date. Select ongoing incidents as the folder, click save. And then if you go to the shapefile library and you go to the ongoing incidents thing, you'll see all those ones. You can see that one I just did. You can see ones from other folks, and the wildfires examples I used earlier. And then you just click select and you're good. Absolutely. In the live environment, it's a slightly different selection of buttons. However, the user guide will show you exactly which clicks you need to make, but it's essentially everything that's on this side is on this side on the live environment because of how we've set up with Resident Connection. Yeah, Tim, it's all one folder for the whole county. And I'm not sure we've decided when we're going to clear it out yet. Maybe Woody, you can weigh in on that, but that's why the dates are really important. So we certainly wouldn't clear out any ongoing incidents, but any old stuff would be deleted.
Yeah, we'll have to develop a particular timeline, but the system itself saves things for only 18 months, which is not as long as you probably want to save it for a real incident just because of ARs and potentially lawsuits. So we'll come up with something that addresses that and how we archive those details off. It'll probably be the county doing it for county sent things and cities for city sent, but we'll come up with some sort of protocol and procedure for that.
Polygons are uploaded. Will each city have drop down? Yes, yes. For you'll have you'll say Zone Haven. I think the naming convention is Zone Haven. Your 3-letter city indicator, and then zones. Is that right, Woody?
Yeah, and we agreed at the stakeholder meeting to change the pattern, the taxonomy for how we name them. So it's exactly as Sam said, the 3-letter city identifier or county, and then 3 hyphen and then 3 digits. There will no longer be a leading E, which had been there for some. Again, that'll be all cleaned up hopefully in the next few days when we get the fresh snapshot from Zone Haven.
All right. So we're going to go ahead and move on to the next portion for the sake of time, but please continue to put any questions you have into the chat. So we'll go over, I'll pull this over and we'll switch back to the presentation here. I do have an extra scenario if we have time we may end up using, but we're going to go ahead to the wireless emergency alert portion of the training. So some cities within the county have access to sending wireless emergency alerts through the Everbridge system. Not all of your cities have this access. However, I want you all to follow along and participate in this portion of the training. That way, when you ask the county to send in a wireless emergency alert on your behalf, you know what you're asking for. You know what they have to do when they're sending the message, and it will help you understand what they need from you when you request that. But for the cities that do have access, you must have, and if your city wants access, you must have an executed MOA with the county, and contact the county team if you want to start that process. There's a couple extra trainings you need to complete. One of them is this portion of the training, and there's some FEMA trainings FEMA online courses you need to complete. You need to have the iPOS incident operator role within the Everbridge platform. You need to have an incident that meets wireless emergency alert criteria to be able to send one of these messages. So back to that where the matrix that I created, you need to have a situation that's like an imminent threat to life. And you have to be in coordination with your command authority. Any questions on the prerequisites, what you need to have to be able to, before you can go ahead and send anything? All right, so we're going to go ahead into our wireless emergency alert scenario. So I'll read the scenario, then we'll flip over to my screen again, and I'll kind of show you how to send that message. So at 4:05 a.m. on April 9th, conditions have rapid. So this is a continuation of that original fire, saying it's gotten worse instead of being over for the update that we sent. But yeah, so the conditions have rapidly worsened as the wildfire continues to spread into residential areas near Castro Valley, near Coal Canyon. Fire crews report that strong winds are pushing the fire directly towards homes, and the fire behavior is becoming more extreme. Due to the immediate threat to life and property, the incident commander, in coordination with the Alameda County Sheriff's Office, has now issued an evacuation order for the affected area. Law enforcement and fire personnel are actively going door to door and directing residents to leave immediately using designated evacuation routes. Roads may be congested and visibility in some areas may be reduced due to smoke. The following evacuation zones are affected: 14, 23, and 45. And a temporary evacuation point remains open at Castro Valley Community Center at that address. So when we're working through this scenario, you will be prompted to plug in a PIN code. So when you're sending iPause messages, you have to plug in a PIN code. It's an extra layer of security to make sure that someone, someone, even if they got into your account, they actually couldn't send one unless they had the PIN code. But here's the PIN code for the training environment. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to splitting my screen here. So bear with me as I do that. Okay, so that's the right scenario here. All right, so this part here, I want you all to go into up at the top here, you'll see you have your organization and your role. I want you all to go ahead and switch to training WEA incident operator. So making sure we're in that training AC alert and then training WEA incident operator. This will give you access to the wireless emergency alert templates. So just like in the live environment, when you have wireless emergency alert access, you'll have a specific role that allows you to access those templates and access that portion of the system. So just like before, we go ahead and click on the launch incident button. Except for now, we'll open up one of the folders. You'll see templates that have WEA as part of them will be denoted as such. So you can see the industrial plant fire, we've got gas leak with WEA. And so you'll know which templates have WEA because they say they include it. So this is an evacuation order, and we'll select that template. So just like before, we fill out the operator panel here. We do have a temporary shelter. Or temporary evacuation point. The time is going to be now again. So it's issued now. If there's a specific time that they wanted to issue it, you could put that in there. So once that's all filled out, click the next button. And it always defaults you down to the pop-up on the page, but we'll start at the top again. You'll see imminent threat to life is activated since it is an imminent threat to life situation. You proofread your message, make sure it all makes sense. So while this message is going to the wireless emergency alert, it is also going to go to resident connection. It's going to go to the Everbridge opt-ins, and it will go to Nixle. Like I said, when your situation is getting most extreme, we use all the communication systems available to us to reach as many people as possible. So that's why there's so many different boxes, because we are using this one template to send to many different communication systems. So we need to make sure that we have the message set up for all of those different methods. So this is what folks receive via text and their phone call, the Everbridge mobile app and email in that box. They receive via Nixle in this box here. It should be set to alert. we can see how we have too many characters here. And so we need to shorten a little bit. We only need to shorten by 1, but so we can just take out a character there. I always, when we're in the training environment, I always leave them at advisory just because it is in simulation mode, but for peace of mind, I don't want to send it to Google at all. I know we can't because it's in simulation mode, but for my own peace of mind, I'll just leave it at advisory. But in a live environment, you'd use alert for this kind of a situation. For the selecting your contacts, you would go ahead and do that procedure I talked about where you select from use zip codes for my polygons, making sure you don't select my entire jurisdiction there. And now you can see we have another option within our publishing options. We have our wireless emergency alert here. So I have it locked into test environment, but in a real one, you'd make sure it was set to live. You have your launch passcode. That's what this pin over here is. So it is case sensitive. So you can type that in. You don't need to use the enter iPass credentials portion. You can just put the code in. So the message is already pre-filled out for you. However, you should always proofread it. Any of the boxes with a red asterisk are required fields. They're also denoted on the right side with the little dots, so you make sure you know what to select. These are all on these types of templates, the ones that are pre-written for you. They'll all be selected and set up accurately. However, there is a template for like an ad hoc wireless emergency alert. So if you were to use that one, you may have to change some of these options. So I'll go through them a little bit, but set it to actual for a real message, for the message status. Scope is set to public for default. The user guides have screenshots of this, so and with little explanations on each box. So if you need to reference that, you can. The message category, you'd pick the category that represents your situation. Evacuation immediate for the event name, and again, just pick what's accurate for that. Imminent threat, public safety, or test. So this one's an imminent threat. Urgency, is it immediate or expected? An example of something that would be expected would be like a tsunami. If you're sending a WIA for an expected tsunami, you use the expected severity for the severity. Certainty, observed or likely. If you're issuing an evacuation order, it is happening. You're certain it's happening because you're issuing it, so you can use observed. This is an option, the expiry hours. This is something you would actually need to change and update potentially based on the scenario. They're all set to default at 1 hour, which may change, but you need to set how long the alert is active for. So wireless emergency alerts, they don't just send once. When you send the message, it goes out and it lays the polygon on a map, and anyone who travels in that polygon within the time limit that you set here will receive that. So the example I like to put is if you drop a wireless emergency alert polygon over I-680, then anyone who drives into that polygon is going to receive that for the entire period of time that you have the alert set for. So if it's set for 2 hours, all the traffic that's flowing through would receive that. It may be a good thing, but you may want to consider that when you're choosing the location that you're sending that message to. So pick the amount of time that you believe is accurate. You can always rebroadcast these, and you can always stop it if the situation is no longer happening, and you want to make sure that that is finished. There's a stop button, but we'll just set it for 2 hours for the situation. Sender name's always going to be Alameda County because you're using the county's codes to send these, not the cities. This is all access to the county system they're using. The headline defaults is set to be the same as the message title here. And here you can see we have the different versions of the wireless emergency alert. So we have the 90 character option. We have the 360 character option. We have the Spanish 90 character and the Spanish 360. These have all been professionally translated and loaded in here. The instructions are set to be the same as the email of the message. A little bit an option for you to add a little bit more information here. It's important to note that if you do on this page, if you do make any changes to these boxes, it doesn't automatically change the box below it or anything. It just changes the box that you changed it in. So if you need to make multiple changes about an address or something, you'd have to make it everywhere. Time zone, obviously, all this stuff happens in all your counties in Pacific, so use that. Area description is Alameda County, affected same, codes is defaulted to the county. Here it gives you a little bit of a warning, and it says don't forget to attach a polygon. If you don't attach a polygon, it will go countywide, and that is true. So if you leave this without a polygon, it will send the wireless emergency alert to the entire county. So all 1.3 million people that live in your county plus visitors will all receive that message. So we need to ensure that you do not send this without adding a polygon. It does give you the pop-up here, and it says no shape attached in red. So make sure you go ahead and attach a polygon. And to do that, we go to our map section, click on the word map, just like you did before. And we're going to go to our shapefile library. We have our 3 evacuation zones, and we'll go ahead and load those. And up here, you can see there's 191 points, and wireless emergency alert, it requires 100 points or less. So this will automatically, when we select it, it will automatically simplify it. So you can see now it turned green and it has simplified. So if we open the map back up again, it will show that it's taking just the outer boundary now and not sending 3 different polygons. It's just simplified the outer boundaries, making sure that it is under 100 points. So not much you need to worry about, but you just want to make sure you see that it all turns green, and it's showing that it's a check mark next to the wireless emergency alert 100 max. That it simplified on correctly. So once you proofread the message, as always, you would click the review button. I'll go make this bigger here. The only difference now is at the bottom. So you still have your email, you've got your text message, and you've got your Spanish and English wireless emergency alert. Double check here that everything's right, and then click send. So if you're following along, just ensure that you're in the simulation mode again, and click send. So that's how that works with wireless emergency alerts. Go back to presentation here. Does anyone have any questions? I know we're about 3 minutes left, but I'm happy to stay on a couple more minutes as if anyone has any other questions. But if there aren't any questions, I really appreciate you all being here and taking this training. This was recorded, so you can review it if you'd like. We'll share that with you, and we will provide all the documents you need from those user guides and the annex and everything. It's all available to you. I think all available. Yeah, go ahead, Samira.
Sorry, Sam. Do you mind putting the page up with the QR code?
Yeah, I think
for
that's
the materials.
That presentation, I think, lives on the computer in your office and not on mine. So I realizing I don't have that version of it, but
I'll put it up in a second. Didn't
Thank
realize
you,
it was
Woody.
a problem.
I didn't realize it until now either.
Yeah, well, yeah. that's one of those things.
Always.
But yeah, thank you all for attending. I'll put up the QR code, which has a copy of this presentation. Actually, the presentation that has the QR code in it. The job aids or user guides, which I think you'll find to be very helpful. Those are, kind of several pages long with lots of screenshots, so very helpful for actually doing this. We will continue working on the alert warning program and continue the discussion for, lots of other things I know we want to expand as technology changes and so forth. So there'll be some more, some meetings that just an ongoing meeting. We'll figure out just how we do that, but more to come. We already talked about the shape files for the zone having zones. Those are updated as soon as we can. And then also the county has a new website coming. Sam showed you our existing website or the link to it. In the next month or so, you should be seeing a brand new website that will have, amongst other things, the current alerts on them with the ability to translate. So some good stuff coming. And any minute now, my presentation will open. I seem to be on the slowest Wi-Fi we have in the office, so apologies.
I'll send it. I'll send it to the everyone the link in all the documents anyway after the training.
Okay, and we'll also be working up some scenarios that we'll send out periodically just to keep in practice and so forth. That you might want to think about doing monthly, or we'll work out how often, but just to kind of keep everybody in practice. And there we go. If I get to share. Let's see. Okay. Okay, there's the QR code at the top, which hopefully you can see.
Thank you, Woody.
Sure thing. All right. So thanks again, everyone.
Thank you all. Yeah, please reach out if you have any questions. We'll be happy to help out.
Thank you, Sam, and thank you, everyone.
Yeah. Yes.
All right, I'll stay on for a couple more minutes just in case anyone has
All right.
any other questions. Thank you.
Sounds good.
Hey, Sam, this is Jared. Is the annex in that information that you sent or that was sent?
It's in that QR code and it's about to be sent to you guys.
I gotcha. Okay. And this is something that we should have on and to reference as if we're getting ready to send an alert, correct?
Yeah, definitely use it as a tool. Yeah, and the guides as well.
I gotcha.
Sure.
Cool. Thank you.
And if you use the QR code that's in bookmark that that folder, if we make any changes to them, which I don't think there's going to be much more changes to be made, but those will continue to be up to date.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, and as we finalize the various documents, the final versions will be there, but it's probably not huge changes.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Any other questions? I think we're good. Thank you, Sam.
Yes,
Thank
thanks.
you all.
It's been great.
I will
Yeah.
figure out how to send you the recording, and then I don't know if you all have software to edit it, but obviously you may want to remove the time that we said that I had them doing the scenarios and stuff. So shorten it up a little bit. But if you don't have the tools to do that, I can figure out someone here that does.
Yeah, no, we can take care of that.
Awesome. All right. Well, I'll talk to you guys, I think, tomorrow afternoon.
Sounds good. Have a good
Right.
day. Thanks again.
Yeah,
Woody
thank you.
Samira, we've got an
Yeah.
opportunity.
Yeah, here.
So I was looking at that spreadsheet that you sent that was being done by VOCI, the registration.
Yes.
So this reads to me like this is for the alert and warning piece. It actually reads two ways. Like the title of the file says Golden Eagle in it. But then in the first column, column A, it says alert and warning stakeholder meeting. And then this is mostly local jurisdictions. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's a bunch of county folks in there too. But I suspect that these are local jurisdictions that are participating in the alert and warning part. These are folks, these aren't people who are going to be in your EOC for the Golden Eagle exercise. Am I tracking?
I don't.
It should only have the Golden Eagle portion. We struggled with it a little bit yesterday, unfortunately, just because it was set up by someone else. So Woody and I were trying to figure out how to extract the information. Well, let us look at it one more time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm looking at the start and end times are January. So yeah, I think you must be right. The person that set this up, I think, is in the office today and wasn't yesterday. So maybe we can unravel this riddle. But thanks. I see what you're saying now that I should have noticed that.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, so I've got the EOC measle that I'm trying to finalize. I would like to get it out to folks to review for the EOC this, sometime this week. I've got a draft, but it's really just going to sections. It's not going necessarily to positions at this point until I understand who's in your actual EOC. And so that's what I was hoping for, like who's going to be in the EOC for Golden Eagle, so I can do that measle. And then I'll end up putting the wildfire stuff in there too. But I don't know who to drop the inject on. I just have it by sections right now.
Yep.
So as soon as you get that to me, I can get it so that, completed on my end and do our best to get some review by the group. But we're moving on, we're getting close to closeout date like this. The end of this week is when I was hoping to get, everything back from the locals and then finish everything on my end next week.
Yeah, no, I understand.
Very good. Cool.
All right.
I'll
All right,
stamp on for
thanks.
that information. No, I appreciate both of you. That was a great training. It's super helpful for my perspective going into this exercise. And I'm really looking forward to continuing to build that program that y'all are, working so hard on. I'm glad to be a part of it. So enjoy the rest of your day. Let me know if you need anything.
You too.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks very
All
much.
right.
Bye.
Thanks again.
Yep.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.